I've been coming to this event, to the gala, every year probably for a decade now. I think I've lost track of how many years I've come to this thing. And I live on the East Coast, so my membership in the LA and Orange County Audio Society is kind of a bi-coastal thing. I don't take part in all of the events because I'm on the other side of the country. So I read about them. I get all of Bob's emails. Bob manages to send his messages to every email address I have now or have ever had in the history of the internet. It's like it shows up in places that don't exist anymore, but somehow I get them. And so I can't go to any of those events. So my involvement in the LA and Orange County Audio Society is sort of peripheral. I come to the event and I provide the opening entertainment because, let's face it, there are not too many entertaining people in this industry. I mean, there are some, but most of the people are very straightforward and aren't entertaining. So I am the entertainment at almost every year. I roast the person getting the award. I talk about them, and it's really fun because I learn about them. I do my history. I talk to people, and I get a good sense of who the person is if I don't know them. And so for me, that's always been fun to come every year and roast the person getting the award. And when I look at the people who get the award, these are all, highly accomplished people in the industry who've done a lot to move the industry forward by either designing great equipment or there's all kinds of ways that you get this award. I honestly don't understand why I'm getting the award. Maybe it's because I've been here for 30 years doing this. I'm just a guy that sits in my basement and writes and does some videos. And, I'm not trying to be humble, because I'm not a humble person, as people know. But I was surprised when they did tell me I was getting it, because I look at the other people that are getting it. I know who's getting it next year. I can't say who it is. And yeah, that person, I get it. I understand why Richard Van Heusen got it. I understand why Harry Weisfeld got it. I understand why most of the people who got it. I'm going to be introduced by John Atkinson, my editor. I'm interested to hear what he says about me. If he roasts me, it'll be a sort of very dry British humor kind of roast, and it'll be interesting. But whatever he says is fine. The whole thing is fine. And then I'll get up and I've got some. I wrote an interesting acceptance speech. It won't be too long. But what I wanted to tell of how I quit the absolute sound and went to stereophile. So this is a really funny story. So I was working, this is 1994, and I was working for Toshiba, actually. I was doing a publicity tour for Toshiba. I've done 3 lucrative publicity tours. And some people might say, well, you're a journalist and this is a breach of journalistic ethics, but I'll tell you what I did. So the first tour I did was for TDK, the tape company, and the first tour was to show people how to convert their vinyl to cassettes. That's how long ago it was. It was like, I think, 1989 or so. And so I traveled around the country, and I did local morning television talk shows, which they used to have. They're pretty much extinct now. But every major and minor market in the country had these talk shows. And they booked me on the talk show to show people how to convert their vinyl to cassettes to play in the car or on their Walkman, because Walkman were becoming big at that point. I was paid very well. I was very good on camera. And that was the first down payment on my first house, was that money. I'd go to the event, and I said to the people at TDK, I cannot shill for your tapes, but I will do what you asked me to do, which was say, when you do these conversions, when you take the trouble to convert your records to cassettes, be sure to use a good quality tape like TDK. I said, I'll say like TDK. I won't say you have to use TDK. That's above and beyond. So I did that, and that was very successful. And the last day of the tour was the Today Show. That was the big kahuna. I was going to go on the Today Show, which I had never been on national television. I was going to go on the Today Show, and I was going to do this shtick, okay? So the Today Show at that point was a big deal. They picked me up in a limousine the night before. They put me up in a hotel in New York the night before, and the people from TDK called me and said, now look, this is the most important event you're going to do. You've got to do it really well. You got to hold that tape up and say, like TDK. I said, fine, I've done this all over the country. It's not a problem. But they knew something I didn't know. What they knew was that the producer of the Today Show, at that point the Today Show was really part of the news operation. And it probably still is, but the walls have broken down. As we all know, it's not what it once was. So I get to the Today Show, and I'm nervous. I'd never been on national television. I was pretty nervous. And this is when Bryant, Gumbel, and Deborah Norville were co-hosting the show. And so the producer calls me and he goes, now look, this is the Today Show. This is not local television. And you cannot hold up that tape. You cannot say there's no product placement on this. This is a news show, no product placement. And I'm thinking, the people from TDK say I must hold it up. The people from the Today Show, you cannot hold it up. It's like the scene in Animal House where Tom Olsberg goes, do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it. That's what it was like. So I haven't put this, I have this thing, I VHS taped it. I sit there, I'm sitting there in between Deborah Norville and Bryant Gumbel, and I'm like doing this. I'm only somewhat nervous about being on the Today Show, which was somewhat nerve-wracking, but I'm so nervous I have the tape in my pocket, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Am I going to take the tape out? Am I not going to take the tape out? And I didn't know till the second we're talking. And I'll tell you this, I've done all these local shows, and the local people, a lot of them were total jerks. It was like, oh yeah, we got the cassette segment. Oh, you sit over there. Okay. Really dismissive. Bryant Gumbel was the nicest, and Deborah Norville, they were the nicest, most accommodating people. They could see I was somewhat agitated, and Brian says, listen, just relax. We'll do a good segment. We'll have a good time. I mean, he was so nice. I just want to say that because it was... So I sit down, and they start talking, and then they get to... So Michael, then what do you do? And so I go, and so when you do this conversion to cassette, you want to make sure to use a good tape, like TDK. I took it out, and I showed it. And nothing happened. It was fine, but it must have looked... I haven't watched this tape. It must look really weird as my hand was like Dr. Strangelove. TDK. And so that was the first thing. So then I did another thing, the same thing. I did the same thing a few years later, but this time it was convert your vinyl. Oh, and one other thing happened. After the segment was over, at that point in time, things were a little bit more relaxed with how much time you had. So Bryant Gumbel, I had given them some extra information. I had given them some extra stuff. I gave them a transfer of an original pressing of Kinda Blue onto a cassette. And they had transferred it, and they had it ready to play in case who knows what. And what ended up happening was after the segment was over, Bryant Gumbel turns to me and goes, you know, that was so interesting and entertaining, especially the vinyl thing, because I thought vinyl is going away. And of course, I said all the things that I believe about vinyl, that vinyl sounds better, that it's going to make a comeback. I said all those things. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I did this tour. It wasn't just to make the money, which was good. It was to get all over television and talk about vinyl. So after the break, we came back and we were sitting in these two big chairs, and there was a picture of Kinda Blue up on the screen, and they played the record in the background, and we talked about Miles Davis and about vinyl. It was very cool. At any rate, now I'll get to the story that I was going to tell you about quitting the Absolute Sound. So another thing I did for the same publicity company was travel around the country and explain to people what home theater was. This is how early, this was 1994, and the whole concept of having a home theater was just getting started. It was laser discs, it was 16:9 analog television. I mean, it was the early days of Dolby Pro Logic surround sound. And I was doing this because I had supervised the soundtrack to the movie Tron. It's not like I didn't know what I was doing. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Soundtrack, so I knew what I was doing. So they hired me to do that. And the one proviso that I put into this, and I was doing the audio side. They had a guy from Toshiba, Craig Eggers, do the video side. He's with Dolby Labs now. He did the video side, so I didn't have to deal with Toshiba. All I was going to be doing was talking about audio and surround sound and the benefit of it, and et cetera, et cetera. I start doing these events. The one thing I said was, if I'm in front of an audience at a store of customers, and they said, what speakers do you like? And do you like those speakers that are in the store? I said, I'm going to be honest, and if I don't like the speakers that the store has, I'm going to say it. That's just the way I am. I'm not gonna shill for anybody as far as that goes. And they were cool with that. I did this all over the country. It was very successful. It was really a lot of fun to go into these stores and talk about home theater. And I think we played a segment from The Fugitive, where the trains crashed. And we show that scene twice, if you remember The Fugitive. And we show it twice. We show it once with the audio in surround sound from the Laserdisc. And there's this, the two trains crash, and then there's all this noise. And then we show it again with no sound. And everybody reacted the same way. And this is an interesting, if you have that video, you should try this. You watch it with the audio, and it looks real. It looks like two trains crashing. You watch it without the audio, and you immediately know it's two toy trains hitting each other. It's a very strange thing. Anyway, so that's one of the things that we did. So the last day of the tour was Boca Raton, Florida. And this was the biggest audience. It was all these Florida high rollers. It was going to be the biggest crowd at a hotel convention center thing. I don't know how they got all these people there, but it was going to be the biggest. So I fly down to Boca Raton with the publicity babe. This is the end of 1994, I believe. Things at the Absolute Sound at that point, and this has got nothing to do with the current Absolute Sound, which is it's the same name of the magazine, but it's totally different people. It's a different magazine. Only a few people stayed, and it's a whole new management structure. This is when Harry Pearson was running it as a personal enrichment center and not as a business. I was a bulldog for the Absolute Sound. I was so fiercely loyal and supportive of the Absolute Sound that one year at a stereophile party at the Consumer Electronics Show, they wouldn't let me into the party because I had been saying bad things about stereophile. Because that's how I was very fiercely loyal. At any rate, so I go down to Boca Raton, and I wasn't being paid. And this has been going on for a month, where they'd say, "Oh, the check's in the mail. I don't understand why you haven't gotten it." And eventually the money showed up. But every time a check was late, it got later and later. And the stress from this was just starting to get to me. I really felt betrayed. So I get to the hotel room in the morning, and this is going to be somewhat graphic. So I go to the bathroom, and I feel a very strange sensation, a warmth, and I look down, and I am bleeding. I am bleeding out of my butt like someone had shot me in the butt. I've never experienced that. I've never had anything like that, and it's like there was so much blood. I thought I was gonna die. Okay, so toilet paper was not doing the trick. So I said, okay, I'm going to use a towel. So I sat on a towel, and about 20 minutes later, no change. So I called up the publicity babe. I said, listen, let me be blunt with you. I am bleeding out of my ass, and I don't think it's going to stop. So we have to go to the emergency room. She said, that's a new one on me, but okay, let's go. So I sit on this towel, and we drive to the emergency room at Boca Raton Hospital. And I walk in, and I said to the woman, I am bleeding out of my butt, and if this doesn't stop soon, I'll probably bleed out. So she goes, okay. And we're sitting there 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I realized I'm not going to get seen, because compared to what's coming in the door, this is Boca Raton. This is like elderly people. So people are coming in with heart attacks, strokes, broken hips. I was nothing. I was like low man on the totem pole. I could have bled out. They wouldn't care, because these people were being wheeled in with all these serious problems. So I called home. I spoke to my wife, and I said, honey, I'm bleeding out of my butt. I said, we had met some guy who was a proctologist in Jupiter. I don't know. We knew some guy. We had met some guy through some other thing who was a proctologist about an hour north of Boca Raton, or a half an hour north. And so she made a call, or I made a call, whatever it was. The guy said he'll take me. Just drive up there. So we get in the car, we drive up, and he says, I'll take you. So we go in, and he says, all right, so first I'm going to give you what's called a sigmoidoscopy. It's one step below a colonoscopy. He says, I want to see what's going on. So the first thing they do is they give you a bunch of downers, so you're really relaxed, the muscle relaxants and downers. And then they take an air hose, and they blow it up your butt to spread everything open so they can take a good look. So I am filled with air, and I am also muscle relaxed. And the guy looks up there, and then he stops the bleeding, he cauterizes it, and he says, look, here's what's going on. You have a horrendous case of hemorrhoids. I said, I have never had a hemorrhoid in my life. I have a very healthy butt, let me say. He said, this is stress-related. This is what happens when you're under incredible stress. He says, I don't know what's creating this stress in you, but whatever it is, you've got to figure it out, you've got to route it out and eliminate this stress. And if you do that, this will all clear up. And if you don't, this will become a chronic condition and you will really suffer with it. Could be for the rest of your life if you don't do something about it. And I realized right then and there that what was causing the stress was my situation at the Absolute Sound, where I was fiercely loyal. I was supporting the magazine and doing everything I could to see that it would survive, and they were really treating me badly. And so the irony, of course, is having the symptom of working for Harry Pearson and having your health go down the tube, bleeding out your butt is actually appropriate. At any rate, I'll leave it at that. As soon as I got back to the hotel, I wrote a note and resigned. I faxed it. I faxed it to the Absolute Sound and I resigned. So meanwhile, I am full of air and I am muscle relaxed, and we're late. We were late getting to this event. So we get to the event and I walk in and I'm really out of it. I'm downed out and I'm full of air. And Craig Eggers, who is tall, big, tall guy, comes up, and the crowd is waiting for me because he'd finished his thing. And he's just waiting, they're waiting for me. And he comes, he says, where the F are you? God damn it. This is the most important event. You've never been late. I said, I'll explain it to you later. So I get up there, and I've done this routine. So I have my pointer, I've got my PowerPoint, and I'm standing there. And meanwhile, this gas has to get out of me. It's like painful. And I'm going, when you buy a home theater? And I got loud, really loud, every time I passed the wind. And I'm going, you have to get a 16:9 television. And the thing is surround sound. And I'm like, ooh. And I go through the whole routine. And I'm thinking to myself, the show must go on. No, you can tell them what happened and they'll forgive you, and Craig can get up and finish it for you. No, the show must go on. 16:9. I got through the whole routine and it was over. And it looked worse. It felt worse, and it looked worse to me than it did to the audience, because most of them just must have thought I was weird. And Craig comes up and he says, "What the heck was that?" And when I told him what it was, he goes, "Oh my God, you didn't have to, you could have just said to me, you could have told me something serious, you were in the hospital, whatever, I would have covered for you." And I said, "No, Craig, the show must go on. I had to finish it." He says, "Well, it looked bizarre to me, but I don't think anybody in the audience knew the difference." And that's how I quit the Absolute Sound. And then the next day, I faxed John Atkinson. I said, I quit the Absolute Sound. I'd love to go to work for Stereophile. And he said, in his typical reserved British manner, he sent back a fax. "Oh, that's too bad, Mikey. Would you like to write a couple of record reviews for us?" I said, "No, I want a column, and I want to be writing hi-fi equipment reviews for you." He said, "Okay." And he took a chance with me because I was a mortal enemy. And whatever's happened to me since is really because of John Atkinson taking a chance on me and burying the hatchet. And that's the story.